Shalom, Yasharala. This is your brother Manatazak with another Bible Bite. And this one is going to be a breakdown on Deuteronomy 28. And it's also going to be bilingual. So we're going to have it in English and in Spanish with a little breakdown for each. Right? So I have two mighty brothers with me in the spirit. Brother, introduce yourself.
Brother Paul coming to you from Nation Kings and Priests.
And this brother here.
Brother Larry coming to you from the nation of Kings and Priests.
Khan. All praises. So this class we're going to use, and we're doing bilingual because there's a lot of Northern Kingdom brothers, you know, like the Latinos, who some of them don't speak English. So we wanted to kind of get them in on some of this information by having another brother who speaks in Spanish, and he's just going to, you know, read the same scriptures in Spanish with the breakdown, right? So we're doing this class, and first and foremost, all praises to Yahweh, our Father, our Creator, in the name of His Son, Hamashiach Yahushai, our big brother, our High Priest, our King, and our Savior, right? So let's get this started. We're going to first start in Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 1, right? And brother, you could read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 1. These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel.
Khan. So the reason we're reading this verse first is to show who this applies to. Doesn't apply to the whole world. It applies to the children of Israel, who we're going to be talking about today in these curses, right? Which is African Americans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Mexicans, Haitians, right? And the rest of Latin America who falls under this. And we're talking about some of the Native American Indians that are here on this continent today, right? So if you fall under these curses, then more than likely you are probably one of these 12 tribes, right? So I'm going to read this one more time for you so we understand who this is talking to. Brother, read that again. Verse 29, verse 1.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 1. These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel.
Khan, which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel. Yasharala, right? So now we're going to get into these curses, right? Because the next thing we're going to do is, let's go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 46, because this is important, because this shows you why it's important to know these curses. Because, you know, without it, you can't identify who the people are today, right? Brother, read that.
Deuteronomy chapter...
Oh, wait. So you know what? Slow down 1 minute. I keep forgetting. We're doing something a little bit different today. Brother, let's go back to Deuteronomy 29, verse 1, right? We can't forget our Spanish brothers. So, brother, if you could get that, Deuteronomy 29, verse 1, and let them know that the reason we're reading it is to show who Moses is talking to. So if you just repeat that in Spanish.
Este es el libro de Deuteronomio, capítulo 29, verso 1. Estas son las palabras del pacto que Jehová mandó a Moisés que celebrase con los hijos de Israel.
So if you could just let them know that the reason we're reading this is to identify who Moses is talking to.
La razón por la que se está leyendo este verso es para que se identifiquen que estamos hablando de ustedes, los hispanos, el reino del norte.
Right. So now we're going to go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 46. Right? So the reason we're going to read Deuteronomy 28, 46 is because Moses said that these curses would be a sign to show who the people are in these latter days, so that we would understand, because most of us wouldn't know our history, and most of us don't know anything about our past or our forefathers. So brother, if you could read that in English.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
Khan. So these curses would be as a sign upon the people to show who these people are in the latter days and who they are. And not only on who they are in the latter days, but it would be on them forever until the time of Yahushua, until the time of Christ coming in the end days when he brings in the new kingdom, right? So it said it would be on your seed forever. and it is a sign upon them, right? Brother, if you could read that in Spanish, but before you read that, explain that you're showing them that this precept, because Moses said that it would be a sign to show who the people are in these days.
Este es el versículo de Deuteronomio 28, verso 46. Y serán en ti por señal y por maravilla en tu descendencia para siempre. Esto es lo que Moisés le dijo a los hijos de Israel, de que esta señal de estas maldiciones perseguirán a los hijos de Israel por toda su descendencia por siempre.
God, beautiful. Now, we're going to go back into Deuteronomy chapter 28, and we're going to start with the curses, starting at verse 15. So if you could let them know, Larry, that we're going into Deuteronomy 28, verse 15 to start.
Vamos al libro de Deuteronomio 28, empezando con el verso 15.
Now, Brother Paul, if you could read Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare these curses, because Moses said it would be a sign. We're going to compare them on the people and see who fits these curses. Larry, if you could repeat that.
Vamos a comparar las maldiciones para ver cómo aplican a nuestra gente hoy en día.
All right, brother. 28, verse 15, Paul.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command ye this day, that all these curses, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So what it's saying here is that if we don't listen to the Most High's words, right, and we don't follow his commandments, he would put curses upon us, and that these curses would be upon us forever. Larry, you can say that in Spanish.
Esto lo que está explicando aquí es que si no escuchamos la palabra de nuestro Padre, de Dios, estas son las maldiciones que Él nos pondría nos puso sobre nosotros.
You could read verse 15 to them.
Esto es el libro de Deuteronomio, capítulo 28, verso 15. Pero acontecerá, si no oyeres la voz de Jehová tu Dios, para procurar cumplir todos sus mandamientos y sus estatutos que yo te envío hoy, que vendrán sobre ti todas estas maldiciones y te alcanzarán.
God, exactly, right? So we're going to jump to a couple of scriptures right before we go any further. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Daniel chapter 9, right? We're going to see what Daniel has to say. Daniel chapter 9. And we're going to go to verse 13 and 14. All right, Brother Paul, you can read that first.
Daniel chapter 9, verse 13. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil is come upon us, yet made we not our prayer before the Lord our God, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand our truth.
So what it's talking about here is, as is written in the laws of Moses, all this evil, all these curses will be upon us. And then he says, yet made we not our prayer before the Lord. In other words, and yet with these curses, we still haven't repented and come back and prayed to the Lord about this, right? That's what he's talking about. So that we turn away from our iniquities. Iniquities is sin, so that we can turn away from our sins. We haven't done that to understand the truth. So, Brother Larry, if you can expound on that, what I just said.
Yeah, Daniel, capítulo 9, versículo 13, está hablando de que conforme a la ley que está escrita en Moisés, que todo el mal que cayó sobre nosotros, y aún así no hemos implorado el favor de Dios para que nos perdone nuestras iniquidades y todo nuestro mal.
Right, and you can read the verse.
Ok, este es el libro de Daniel, capítulo 9, versículo 13. Conforme está escrito en la ley de Moisés, todo este mal vino sobre nosotros, y no hemos implorado el favor de Jehová nuestro Dios, para convertirnos de nuestras maldades y entender tu verdad. Por tanto, Jehová veló sobre el mal y lo trajo sobre nosotros, porque justo es Jehová nuestro Dios en todas sus obras que ha hecho, porque no obedecimos a su voz.
And that was all of 13, right?
13 and 14.
Oh, no, 14 was in the part.
Oh.
All right, Shalaki. So let's go on. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28, right? And now we're going to start at verse 16, right? Brother Paul, if you could read verse 16. Yeah.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 16. Cursed shall thou be in the city.
Hold it. So cursed shall thou be in the city. When you go all around the world to these major cities, who are the people at the bottom? Who are the people at the worst end of these cities in society, right? If you look around, it's going to be natives, Native Americans. You're going to see Latinos. You're going to see African Americans, right? We're the ones at the bottom. We're the ones that are cursed in these cities, right? And what else, brother?
And cursed shall thou be in the field.
So if you think about in the field, in the workplaces, and even before the common workplaces, in the field picking tobacco, picking strawberries, picking cotton. You could repeat what I just said?
Yeah. El libro de Deuteronomio, en el capítulo 28, verso 16, dice: maldito serás tú en la ciudad y maldito en el campo. Como ustedes saben, nosotros, los hispanos y los afroamericanos, somos los que más en baja estatuto estamos en la ciudad. Somos los que tenemos que somos los que siempre estamos más marginados. En la ciudad y en el campo, en nuestros trabajos, siempre nos ponen en el lugar más bajo, en las posiciones incluso hasta de empleo.
And I want you to emphasize to them that if these things sound familiar in their lives, it's because we fit these curses, because we are these people.
Ahora traten de incorporar estas maldiciones que les vamos a leer y díganos o piensen entre ustedes mismos si estas maldiciones no nos aplican a nosotros hoy. Escúchenla.
Right. Paul, if you could read verse 17. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 17. Cursed shall thou be, Salakia, cursed shall thou basket and thou store.
So it says, cursed shall thou be thy basket and thy store. What that means is, you know, as a child, I remember that food was kind of scarce, right? We don't always have money to buy groceries. We don't always have money to get the necessities that we need. So that's what it's talking about when it says, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Brother Larry?
Este es el libro de Deuteronomio, capítulo 28, verso 17. Maldita tu canasta y tu arteza de amasar. Esto lo que está hablando es que nosotros, cuando estamos en situaciones económicas precarias, como la mayoría de nosotros hemos estado, es que se nos hace bastante difícil hasta sustentar a nuestras familias. No tenemos la facilidad económica para poder muchas veces alimentarnos de día a día. Tenemos incluso a veces hasta que ir a pedirle algo al vecino.
Now I want to slow down a little bit because we're going to go into the book of Baruch and we're going to go to chapter 1, right? And we're going to read about these curses in verse 20 and 21, right? And then we're going to ask a question, and 22 will answer that question. If you could repeat what I just said.
Sí, vamos a leer del libro de Baruch, capítulo 1, del 20 al 21, y vamos a hablar también sobre lo de las maldiciones, y vamos a hacer una pregunta, y te vamos a enseñar la contestación de esa pregunta.
All right. Paul, if you could read Baruch chapter 1, verse 20.
Baruch chapter 1 and verse 20. Wherefore the evils cleave unto us, and the curse, which the Lord appointed by Moses his servant.
Right. So it says, wherefore the evils cleaved unto us, and the curse. So the evils were the judgments that were put on us by the Most High Yahweh, and the curses that came along with these things. Right? You could repeat what I just said.
Este verso de Baruch 1, versículo 20, habla sobre la maldición de los juicios que Dios puso sobre nosotros por desobedecer la ley.
So Paul, you can finish off where you started with the
which the Lord appointed by Moses his servant, at the time that he brought our fathers out of the land of Egypt.
So these are the things that the Most High appointed and said he would do to us from the time we came out of slavery in Egypt and captivity. In fact, Larry, I want you to read verse 20 so that they understand what you're saying.
Okay. Este es el libro de Baruch, capítulo 1, versículo 20. Por lo tanto, el mal se nos ha adherido y la maldición, el cual nuestro Señor prespuso por Moisés, su siervo, en el tiempo cuando sacó a nuestros padres de la tierra de Egipto, para darnos la tierra donde fluye la leche y miel, como será en ese día.
Right. And Paul, you can finish it out.
To give us a land that floweth with milk and honey, like as it is to see this day.
So we're going to go into verse 21, Paul.
Verse 21. Nevertheless, we have not hearkened unto the voice of the Lord our God.
So nevertheless, we still, with these curses that have been put on us and all these tribulations, we still haven't listened to the Most High Yahweh. We still haven't listened to his words. We're still being rebellious, right? So, finish it out, Paul.
According unto all the words of the prophets, whom he sent unto us.
Right. So, even with the prophets he sent out to us, we still didn't listen and we were still rebellious. If you can explain that.
El verso 21 habla, a pesar de eso no hemos escuchado la voz de nuestro Señor, nuestro Dios, de acuerdo a todas las palabras de los profetas a quien Él nos envió. Esto está hablando de aún con las maldiciones sobre nosotros, con los juicios sobre nosotros, aún así no hemos querido escuchar la voz de nuestro Santo Padre.
Right. So, now the question is, why were we not listening? Why were we being stiff-necked, right? Verse 22 allows us to understand why, right? Paul, if you read verse 22. But before you do that, could you just repeat what I just said?
Ahora vamos a ver el por qué no le hemos puesto atención y nos hemos convertido y se nos han convertido en oídos sordos y nos hemos transformado en seres tercos sobre la ley.
Right. So Paul, if you could read verse 22.
Verse 22. But every man followed the imaginations of his own wicked heart.
What did he do?
But every man followed the imaginations of his own wicked heart.
Right. So every man followed his own imagination, his own wicked heart. That's these Christians today. When they go, oh, I feel. They're imagining they have a relationship with the Most High while they're breaking his laws. And they feel that it's okay because they want to do it their way. Right? So hold it right there. And in fact, finish that out.
To serve strange gods.
To serve strange gods, right? Especially in the Latino community, right? We got our statues up. We got our altars up. We're bowing down to statues of Saint Lazarus, right? Caridad de Pobre, right? And all these other statues, right? And we're lighting candles and giving up all types of stuff. So we're serving strange gods in the Latin community. And that's against the Bible and against the Most High, right? So go ahead, finish that.
And to do evil in the sight of the Lord our God.
Khan. And it is doing evil in the sight of our Lord our God. So, Brother Larry, what you're going to do is, you're going to go and you're going to go up to where it says wicked heart. In verse 22.
Okay. Verso 22. Pero todo hombre ha seguido las manifestaciones de su corazón malvado para seguir dioses extraños. Oh, Salaki.
Right. So basically, it's because we're imagining that we're doing what's good in our own mind and that we're worshiping these other gods, and we think it's okay because the church says it's okay, right? Like the Catholic Church, they have statues up everywhere, right? So we're imagining in our own wicked heart and that we're going to serve strange gods. Go ahead, you could repeat that.
Está hablando aquí de que nosotros nos hemos imaginado desde nuestro corazón, o sea, la mente, a seguir costumbres que son en contra de las leyes de Dios. Nos entregamos al catolicismo que tiene la idolatría de dioses como San Lázaro, la Virgen del Carmen, la Virgen del Cobre, y eso no va bien con nuestro Padre.
Ah, beautiful. Paul, if you could, we're going back to Deuteronomy 28. Let them know the book of Baruch is in the Apocrypha.
Le dejamos saber que el libro de Baruch está en la apócrifa.
It's part of the Bible that they took out.
Es uno de los libros que la Iglesia Católica quitó de la Santa Biblia.
Right. Now we're going back to Deuteronomy 28. We're going to go from verse 18.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body.
Khan. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body. What that means is cursed will be your children. So not only are you cursed and suffering these curses, but your children will be cursed and suffer with you. Larry, if you can expound on what I just said.
Sí, Deuteronomio 28, verso 18. Maldito el fruto de tu vientre. Eso quiere decir que no solo tú eres maldito, sino que los hijos que tú tengas también serán malditos junto contigo.
Right. We're going to go to verse 22. Paul, if you could read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 22. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword.
Now, you're going to finish out that whole paragraph because it's part of another paragraph before I say what I'm going to say. Go ahead.
And with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish.
Right, until thou perish. And jump to verse 27.
Verse 27. The Lord will smite thee with Both of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed.
Khan. So what this is talking about is the curses include people being sick, right? So back in the time of Egypt, the Lord put curses on them where they have botches, big welts and openings on the skin and on the flesh. Brother Larry, if you can read verse 28, chapter 28, verse 22.
Este es el libro de Deuteronomio, capítulo 28, verso 22. Jehová te herirá de tisis, de fiebre, de inflamación y de ardor, con sequía, con calamidad repentina y con añublo, y te perseguirán hasta que perezcas. Now 27.
And 27.
Verso 27. Jehová te herirá con la úlcera de Egipto, con tumores, con sarna y con comezón de que no puedas ser curado.
Exactly. Now, when we look at it, this happened to the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt, right? And when they were in Egypt, right? Mm-hmm. Let them know.
Esto, como sabemos, esto fue lo que le pasó a los hijos de Israel cuando estaban
in Egypt.
En Egipto.
Right. And to the Egyptians.
Y a los egipcios, obvio.
Right. Now, when we look at our people in current times,
Ahora cuando vemos a nuestra gente en el tiempo presente,
right, we look at the plagues of the Taínos when the Spaniards came. They gave them smallpox. They gave them other diseases, syphilis, and a lot of our people died. That was part of these curses.
y como sabemos, cuando los españoles invadieron al Caribe, ellos le trajeron muchas de estas enfermedades a los nativos, como a los taínos del Caribe y a los nativos de Sudamérica. Trajeron el sarampión,
Smallpox, syphilis,
la sífilis,
right,
y otra variedad de enfermedades que no las habían ahí antes.
and it killed a lot of us.
Y mató a muchos de los indígenas.
Right, and in current times, we look at the plagues that are on the earth today. COVID, right? Mm-hmm. And in certain other countries like India, they got the plague going on, right? Mm-hmm.
Y ahora en el día presente estamos viendo que siguen las enfermedades como el COVID y como todas esas otras enfermedades de virus que están apareciendo de la nada.
Right, and it's global. It's not in one place.
Y es algo global, no es solo en un solo país.
So that fulfills prophecies of these illnesses upon the people as a judgment.
Que eso cumple la profecía de las enfermedades que Dios les conjuró a los que maldijo a sus propios hijos por desobedecer la ley y la palabra de Dios.
Right. Paul, if you could read verse 28.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness.
And if we look around, our people are looking really crazy on these streets. There's all types of things happening that probably might not have happened in the past as much as it's happening right now. Go ahead, finish it out.
And blindness.
And blindness. And what?
And an astonishment of heart.
Right. So blindness is not only a physical blindness. A lot of people are becoming so ill that some of them may become blind, but also a spiritual blindness. Right? Brother Larry, if you could read that in 28.
Deuteronomio 28, verso 28. Jehová te herirá con locura, ceguera y turbación de espíritu. Ustedes están viendo muchas personas que en la calle se comportan como si estuvieran locos, hablan solo, cometen crímenes que después cuando los entrevistan dicen yo no sé qué era lo que yo estaba pensando. Tienen ceguera y turbación de espíritu. No pueden ver lo que están haciendo y su espíritu mismo está turbado. No logran concentrarse en hacer el bien.
All right, Paul, if you can go to verse 32.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
So if we look at this verse, this is a fulfillment of us in slavery. In slavery in the Caribbean and here in the mainland, when we were in captivity to these Spaniards, right? What did they do? They took our sons and our daughters from us in slavery. They killed some of us. They converted some of us. In fact, if you look at the word godparents, that's a Catholic thing. The way godparents came about was if the Indians didn't want to change, they would kill them. They would take the children, put them with some Spanish parents, then they would convert the children. That's how godparents came into play. Finish that up.
And thy eyes shall look and shall fail with longing for them all day long.
So you'll be looking for your children, you'll be missing for them all day long. And what else?
And there shall be no might in thine hand.
Right, you would have no strength to do anything about that. Brother Larry, if you could start with that first sentence there in 32.
Deuteronomio 28, verso 32. Tus hijos y tus hijas serán entregados a otro pueblo y tus ojos no lo verán. Como ustedes saben, en los tiempos de los conquistadores, los hijos y las hijas se le quitaban a los nativos para convertirlos a sus creencias. De ahí también viene el nombre de padrinos, porque si tú no obedecías lo que ellos decían, mataban a sus padres y se los entregaban a otros españoles para que los pudieran ir sugestionando mentalmente y convertirlos a la idolatría de las religiones de ellos, que era como el cristianismo y el catolicismo.
And finish out the verse.
Y desfallecerán por ellos todo el día y no habrá fuerza en tu mano. Que van a sufrir mucho porque perdieron a sus hijos y no habrá fuerza en su mano. Quiero añadir algo, es como ahora el ejército de los Estados Unidos te quita a tus hijos para que vayan a luchar a otros países en guerra que no benefician a nuestros países hispanos, sino al país del imperio que está gobernando como los Estados Unidos. Esto también aplica a ellos.
Right. I want to throw a verse in here from the Baruch. I'm going to say it in English, and you say it in Spanish, right? This is Baruch chapter 4, right? And verse 6. I'm going to say it in English. You don't have it there yet. Mm-hmm. All right? It says, you were sold to the nations.
Fuiste vendido a las naciones.
Not for your destruction.
No para tu destrucción.
But because you moved God to wrath.
Sino porque llevaste a Dios a la furia.
You were delivered unto the enemies.
Tú fuiste entregado al enemigo.
Right. It says, for you provoked him that made you.
Porque tú provocaste a quien te creó.
Right. By sacrificing unto devils.
Por hacerle sacrificios a demonios.
And not to God.
Y no a Dios.
You have forgotten.
Se te olvidó.
The everlasting God.
El Padre eterno.
That brought you up.
Quien te trajo.
And you have grieved Jerusalem. Grieved, like sorrow.
Y has sufrido Jerusalén.
That nursed you.
De quien te cuidó.
Right. And so this is in Baruch, right? Chapter 4. That's from 6 to 8.
Este es Baruch, capítulo 4, del 6 al 8.
Right.
6 to 8, you said?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And this was a prophecy about our people in that time of when these things came upon them.
Y esa es una profecía de cuando estas cosas le pasaron al pueblo de Dios.
Right. So we're going to go to verse 33. Paul?
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 33. The fruits of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
So the nation that came, right, and ate up the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest, a nation that you do not know, will come and eat up, and you will be and will eat up your resources, is what it's really saying. It will eat up your resources, your food, all the resources around you, and they will oppress you and crush you always. Now we know that was also a fulfillment not only in ancient times, but even during the time of the Taino in the Caribbean when the Spaniards came, right? Brother Paul, if you could, Brother Larry, if you could relay what I just said and then read that verse.
Sí, first I'm going to read the verse so I can Este es el libro de Deuteronomio 28, verso 33. El fruto de tu tierra y de todo tu trabajo comerá pueblo que no conociste, y no serás sino oprimido y quebrantado todos los días. Esto explica que nuestros países hispanos, aunque producían mucha agricultura, solo un pequeño porcentaje ellos comían, pero todo lo demás era exportado fuera de esos países para otras naciones. Incluso cuando los nativos que eran buenos en agricultura tenían sus plantaciones, los españoles se lo quitaban todo y se lo comían ellos todo. Eso es parte de las maldiciones en las que está explicando aquí en el verso de que el fruto de tu tierra y de todo tu trabajo comerá pueblo que no conociste, y no serás sino oprimido y quebrantado todos los días.
Right. And if you look at today, our people are still suffering this crushing blow because if we look at Puerto Rico and the other islands, they always have their hand out now asking for help from America. They can't do it on their own anymore.
Sí, esta maldición está hasta hoy. En la isla de Puerto Rico han acostumbrado al puertorriqueño ya a tener una cultura de pedir, de el mantengo. Todo es ayúdame, cuando el puertorriqueño tiene las facilidades y el terreno para sustentarse por sí mismo.
Right. Paul, we're going to read verse 36 of Deuteronomy 28.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 36. The Lord shall bring thee, and thou king which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
Right. So, it mentions how the Lord shall bring a nation, right? And this nation of people will come over and they're going to conquer us, and that we are going to serve these people, right? So it says, bring thee and thy king and shalt set over thee. They're going to be set over us, right? The Most High set them over us. The Spaniards came in there, right? Christopher Columbus came in there and they were set over our people, right? And what happened when they got set over us? They had us change over to their way of worship, right? And where it says in the prophecy, we will worship serve other gods, we ended up serving their version of what they call Jesus, right? This white guy that's not even in the scriptures, right? And it said wood and stone. So we have Christians worshiping the wooden cross, and some of our people have become Muslims and they worship the Kaaba stone in Mecca, right? So, Brother Larry, if you could read that in 36.
Deuteronomio 28, verso 36. Jehová te llevará a ti y al rey que hubieres puesto sobre ti, a nación que no conociste ni tú ni tus padres, y allá servirás a dioses ajenos, al palo y a la piedra. Esto está hablando de que en los pueblos hispanos, todos los pueblos que tenían sus jefes sobre ellos, sus gobernantes como los caciques, eran tomados y convertidos en esclavos y eran sugestionados a servir religiones y dioses ajenos y a adorar sus dioses hechos de palo y de piedra. Sabemos que hay muchos hispanos que se meten al Islam y los hacen adorar la piedra de Meca. Eso todo son parte de las maldiciones de Dios.
Right. Paul, if you could read verse 37.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee.
Right. This is a very important precept, because this prophecy also discussed that we would become a proverb and a byword. What is that? That means we're going to be called by another name that's not our name, right? So, for instance, we're called Puerto Ricans, right? Rich port. That's what Puerto Rico means, rich port. Are the people a rich port? No, we're not rich ports, but the Spaniards named us that. That wasn't our name, right? So the reality is, and also African Americans, what did they call them? They called them black. They called them Afro-Americans. They called them negros, right? That's not their name either, right? So, and the American Indians, they called them Indians or Native Americans. That wasn't their name either. So we're being all called by these proverbs and these bywords among all the nations, right? And it is an astonishment, because they all look at us and they think to themselves, these people are ruined because they don't know their history, right? So, Brother Larry, if you could read verse 37 and break that down.
Deuteronomio 28, verso 37. Y serás motivo de horror, y servirás de refrán y de burla a todos los pueblos a los cuales te llevara Jehová. esto lo que está hablando es que muchos de que por la maldición nos iban a cambiar nuestros nombres originales. Por ejemplo, a los a los boricuas, que les dicen puertorriqueños, desprendiéndose del nombre que los españoles le dieron como Puerto Rico, y la tribu de Simeón, los dominicanos, los afroamericanos les llaman afroamericanos, a los indios nativos les dicen indios, cuando esos no son nuestros nombres originales. Todos esos nombres nos los puso quienes nos conquistaron, pero antes de conquistarnos nosotros teníamos otros nombres.
Right, and this goes for all of the Caribbean islands.
Y eso fue en todo el Caribe, and including South America.
That's right, Latin America too.
En el Caribe, Suramérica y Norteamérica. Todos teníamos nuestros nombres originales y quienes nos conquistó nos los cambió para burlarse de nosotros.
Right. Paul, if you can go to verse 41, please.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Right. So this is actually repeating what we said earlier, where our children would be taken from us, right? And we wouldn't enjoy our children because they're going to go into captivity and we're going to go into captivity. And we know in slavery, they separated the parents from the children. So even today, they still separate parents from children under the guise of child safety in the foster care system, which is a business because the government makes money off of them. Brother Larry, verse 41.
Deuteronomio 28, verso 41. Hijos e hijas engendrarás y no serán para ti, porque irán en cautiverio. Como ustedes saben, los hijos de hoy en día de muchas personas de bajos recursos, el gobierno se los quita y se los entrega a otras personas que no son sus padres. Todo esto cae en las mismas maldiciones, porque como ya hablamos antes, en las maldiciones de que Dios hará que se nos quitaran nuestros hijos y no serán para nosotros porque irán en cautiverio.
Right. Was that first 41 that was?
Come.
All right, we're going to go to Paul, verse 43.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
So what it's talking about, the stranger that came in amongst our people, right? These Spaniards, these Caucasians that came in to the Caribbean and here to the Americas, who came in among our people, the Most High said in this curse that they will get above us, right? Their status, their power would get above us and we would fall below them. And when we look at these curses in all these cities and in the plantations, that's where we are. We are at the bottom and they are at the top. Brother Larry, verse 43.
Libro de Deuteronomio 28, verso 43. El extranjero que estará en medio de ti se elevará sobre ti muy alto y tú descenderás muy abajo. Como ustedes saben, y hablo de nuevo de mi isla de Borinquen, sabemos que hay muchas propiedades que han sido expropiadas y luego viene el gringo, el extranjero, y las compra. O sea que ahora él en tu tierra está en una posición alta y tú que eres de ahí estás en una posición baja.
Right, perfect. We're going to go to verse 45, Paul, if you read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
So now, moreover, all these curses shall come upon us, right? So these curses the Most High put upon our people for breaking his laws, statutes, and commandments, these are punishments. And he said they will overtake us, right? They will follow us wherever we go. right? So now, and that we would be destroyed in this, right? In slavery, we were destroyed because we lost our names, we lost our heritage, we lost our history, right? We don't know who we are. We think that we think we started in slavery, most of us, right? There's no prehistory that they even talk about or teach in school, right? So finish it out.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee.
Right. So this happened to us because we did not listen to the Most High Yahweh. We broke his commandments. Brother Larry, if you could start on that 45.
Deuteronomio 28, versículo 45. Y vendrán sobre ti todas estas maldiciones y te perseguirán y te alcanzarán hasta que perezcas, por cuanto no habrás atendido a la voz de Jehová tu Dios para guardar sus mandamientos y sus estatutos que él te mandó. Aquí está. Y vendrán sobre ti todas estas maldiciones, todas las cosas que nos están pasando hoy en día, todos los pesares, cada vez que tratamos de echar para adelante, damos un pie para adelante y 10 para atrás. Todo esto son maldiciones que Dios marcó sobre nosotros, simplemente por no escuchar sus mandamientos y sus leyes ni sus estatutos.
Right. Our people lost their history through the slavery. That's how we were destroyed. Because, right, you said that? All right.
Nuestra gente perdió todo, su cultura, su lenguaje, su religión, a causa de las maldiciones que Dios echó sobre nosotros por desobedecer a nuestro Santo Padre.
Right. And then we're going to reread verse 46. Reread that, verse 46.
¿Me?
Yep.
Okay. Deuteronomio 28, verso 46. 46. Y serán en ti por señal y por maravilla, y en tu descendencia para siempre.
Forever. Right. Paul, read verse 46.
Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
Right. Now go into verse 47, Paul.
Verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart.
Right. So let them know this happened. Because of what's in verse 47.
I'm gonna start from 46 until 47. So,
Okay.
Deuteronomio 28, versículo 46 al 47. Y serán en ti por señal y por maravilla y en tu descendencia para siempre, por cuanto no serviste a Jehová tu Dios con alegría y con gozo de corazón y por la abundancia de todas las cosas. O sea que todas estas maldiciones te van a servir a ti de señal para que tú te identifiques con esto y te maravilles sobre toda tu descendencia para siempre, para que tú te recapacites y te des cuenta que eres tú parte de los hijos de Israel, que tienen que volver a las leyes, los preceptos y los mandamientos de Dios.
Right. Paul, if you could read verse 48.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
Right. Hold right there. I want you to read up to where he read up to.
48. Ese es el libro de Deuteronomio 28, versículo 48. Servirás por tanto a tus enemigos que enviaré Jehová contra ti, o que enviare Jehová contra ti, con hambre y con sed y con desnudez.
Right. So the reason that, so he sent these upon us where we would have to serve our enemies, right? In hunger and in thirst and in nakedness, so that we would have to depend on our enemies for all things, right? Say that in Spanish.
Aquí está hablando de que Dios nos mandó a nuestros enemigos sobre nosotros para que tengamos que servirle en hambre, en sed y en desnudez. Como ustedes saben, si queremos comer, tenemos que ir a a nuestros dueños, porque todos los alimentos los hacen ellos. El agua tenemos que comprársela cuando el agua es gratis. Hasta la desnudez, para comprar ropa tenemos que ir a tiendas que son propiedad de ellos.
Right. Paul, finish reading it.
And in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee.
Right, and that happened to us in slavery. And when it means destroy, it means lose our history and our identity. Right? So you finish that out?
Y con falta de todas las cosas, y él pondrá yugo de hierro sobre tu cuello hasta destruirte. O sea que él te mantendrá en la esclavitud bajo todos tus dueños, hasta destruirte, hasta destruir todo lo que tú en algún momento fuiste antes de caer en la esclavitud.
Right. And we're going to go to Paul, you read verse 49.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flieth.
Right. And when we look at this, right, this is part of the punishment for breaking those laws, right? So he said he will send a nation against us as swift as the eagle flieth, right? Read that up to that.
Esto es parte del castigo de Dios. Deuteronomio 28, versículo 49. Jehová traerá contra ti una nación de lejos, del extremo de la tierra, que vuele como águila, nación cuya lengua no entiendas.
Right. And this is the results of us not listening to the Most High, that he sent these people against us. Now, we know who these people are, because what country has an eagle as a national bird?
Exacto. Esta nación que Dios envió sobre nosotros, que viene del extremo de la tierra, que vuele como águila. ¿Qué nacionalidad ustedes conocen que usa el águila como su escudo?
Right. America.
Los Estados Unidos.
Spain.
España.
Right. Rome.
En Roma.
Nazi Germany.
Grecia. Alemania.
Right. All of the Caucasian nations.
Todas las naciones caucásicas usan el emblema de el águila.
Right. Paul, you could finish out that verse. I know you didn't finish it.
A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Right. And when they came to us, they spoke a language we did not understand, that we did not know. Some of us, it was Spanish. Some of us was Portuguese. Some of us was English, right?
Exacto. Ellos llegaron a nuestras áreas hablándonos en una lengua que no conocíamos, como dice aquí, nación cuya lengua no entiendes. Vinieron hablándonos en español, vinieron hablándonos en portugués, vinieron hablándonos en inglés. Esas lenguas no eran nuestras lenguas nativas.
Right. Now, Paul, read verse 50.
Verse 50. A nation of fierce continuance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
Right. I want you to reread that. The continents.
Salakia. Verse 50. A nation of fierce continence, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
Right. Read that, Larry. Verse 50.
Versículo 50. Gente fiera de rostro, que no tendrá respeto al anciano ni perdonará al niño.
Right. So what this is talking about is that these people were fierce. They were powerful people, but they were evil. They didn't care about old or young. They killed everything that they wanted to kill, and they didn't care.
Esto está hablando de esa nación que vino y no discriminó, no tuvo piedad ni contra el anciano ni contra el niño. Ellos asesinaron a todos los que tenían en su camino.
Right. So now, we've read enough about the curses because we've lived them, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to see what happens and how do we reverse the curse.
Ya vimos lo que hemos vivido y seguimos viviendo bajo las maldiciones que Dios impuso sobre nosotros. Ahora vamos a ver cómo se puede revertir esa maldición por medio de la bendición.
Right. We're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 30. All right. So now, Deuteronomy 30, verse 1. Paul?
Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind.
Right. Go ahead.
Among all the nations.
Right. Hold right there. So he's telling us, this is the Most High telling us, that in that time, that is going to come to pass, that when we remember who we are, right? And that, after all these things that have come upon us, the blessing and the curse, that he set on us, and that we recall them to mind among all the nations, whether the Lord thy God have driven us, right? What's going to happen? Verse 2.
Verse 2. And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice, according to all that I command you this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Right. Before we go on, we're going to go do it in Spanish. Verse 1, brother.
Deuteronomio 30, verso 1. Sucederá que cuando hubieren venido sobre ti todas estas cosas, la bendición y la maldición que he puesto delante de ti, y te arrepentieres en medio de todas las naciones a donde te hubiere arrojado Jehová tu Dios, y te convirtieres a Jehová tu Dios, y obedecieres a su voz conforme a todo lo que yo te mando hoy, tú y tus hijos con todo tu corazón y con toda tu alma.
Right? So now, the thing is, he's telling us what we have to do to reverse the curses and to get put back in the position that our forefathers were in, right? Mm-hmm.
Ahora Yahweh nos está diciendo cómo podemos volver a su gracia y podemos revertir de la maldición a la bendición.
Right? And that's what verse 1 and 2 is talking about.
Y de eso es de lo que el verso 1 y 2 está hablando, de que nos volviéramos a él y obedeciéramos su voz conforme a todo lo que él nos mandó a que hiciéramos.
Right. Now we're going to go to verse 3, Paul.
Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 3. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity.
Wait. Shalakia, my fault. I want to slow down for a minute. I want to go back to verse 1 for a minute. We're going to read Baruch chapter 2, verse 30. I want to get it in Spanish first, and then we'll get it in English.
Este es el libro de Baruch, capítulo 2, verso 30. Pues yo sé que no me escuchan, porque son un pueblo terco, pero en la tierra de su cautiverio se acordarán de sí mismos.
Right. So when they remember themselves, right, in the land of their captivity, and we are in that land now. Paul, read it in English.
Baruch, chapter 2 and verse 30. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves.
Right? So in the land of our captivities, the prophecy says we will remember who we are. Repeat that.
Dice que en la tierra de nuestro cautiverio nos acordaremos de quienes somos, o sea, los hijos de Israel.
Right. We're going to go to 31 on here. Paul, you read that. This Baruch.
Baruch chapter.
I'll do it. Go ahead.
Baruch chapter 2 and verse 31. And shall know that I am the Lord their God, for I will give them an heart and ears to hear.
Right. So he will give us the heart and ears to hear. So he's prophesying that the Most High is going to open our hearts and our ears and our eyes to this truth and to this doctrine, right? I'm going to read it and you say it in Spanish, right? This is Baruch chapter 2, verse 31. It says, remember, this is part of the prophecy. It says, and shall know that I am the Lord their God.
Y sabrán que yo soy el Señor, su Dios.
Right, for I will give them a heart.
Porque yo les daré un corazón
and ears to hear.
Y oídos para escuchar.
And they shall praise me.
Y ellos me alabarán.
In the land of their captivity.
En la tierra de su cautiverio.
And think upon my name.
Y pensarán en mi nombre.
Right? And then, what does it say? What will happen then? No, repeat what I'm saying. And it will say, what will happen then after this happens when we think upon his name?
Que cuando volvamos a pensar en su nombre, Él nos dará una nueva mente,
right.
O sea, un nuevo corazón y unos nuevos oídos para escucharlo.
Right? And it says on verse 33, and return from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds.
Y regresarán de su terquedad y de sus malos caminos.
For they shall remember the way of their fathers.
Porque ellos se acordarán del camino de sus patriarcas.
Which sinned before the Lord.
Cuales pecaron delante de Dios.
And I will bring them again into the land.
Y los volveré a traer a la tierra.
Which I promised with an oath unto their fathers.
La cual yo le prometí en juramento a sus padres.
Abraham, Isaac and Jacob.
Isaac y Jacob.
And they shall be lords of it.
Y ellos serán dueños de ella.
And I will increase them. I will increase them.
Y yo los haré crecer.
And they shall not be diminished.
Y no serán disminuidos.
And I will make an everlasting covenant with them.
Y yo haré un eterno pacto con ellos.
To be their God.
Para ser su Dios.
And they shall be my people.
Y ellos serán mi pueblo.
And I will no more.
Y yo no más.
Drive my people of Israel out of the land that I have given them.
Volveré a sacar a la tierra de Israel, la tierra que yo les he dado.
Right. Let me see here. Let's go to verse 2 of chapter 30 of Deuteronomy. Paul.
Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 2. And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice, according to all that I command you this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
Right. So this is part of the prophecy that we will return to the Lord, we will obey his voice, right? And that us and our children with all our heart and with all our soul. Verse 2.
Deuteronomio 30, versículo 2. Y te convirtieres a Jehová tu Dios y obedecieres a su voz conforme a todo lo que yo te mando hoy, tú y tus hijos, con todo tu corazón y con toda tu alma.
Right. And this is going to happen. He's going to wake us up and do this with us.
Y esto va a pasar porque escrito está.
Right. And then verse 3, Paul.
Verse 3. That then the Lord thy God will return thy captivity.
Right. Go ahead.
And have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee.
Right. And then when we fulfill verse 2, where we accept the Lord thy God with our hearts, with all our soul and our children, then verse 3, he will return to us and he will remove us from our captivity. He will have compassion upon us and return and gather us from all the nations, whether the Lord has scattered us, he will bring us back. Verse 3.
Deuteronomio 30, verso 3. Entonces Jehová hará volver a tus cautivos y tendrá misericordia de ti y volverá a recogerte de entre todos los pueblos a donde te hubiere esparcido Jehová tu Dios.
Right. Let's go to I want to say Daniel Daniel 7 and 22. So that they could see a picture of what's gonna happen when that verse 3 happens. This is what's gonna happen, right? Paul, you read verse 22.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 22. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom.
Hold that right there. Verse 22 in Daniel.
Daniel 7, versículo 22. Hasta que vino el anciano de días y se dio el juicio a los santos del Altísimo, y llegó el tiempo y los santos recibieron el reino.
Right. So these saints that the Bible in the prophecy of Daniel is talking about, these are the same people that we're reading about in Deuteronomy. And this is the end times when the kingdom is coming. So he's giving judgment to the saints, right? And the Most High has come to gather them from all the corners of the earth. Okay, Larry?
Este versículo está hablando de que estos santos del Altísimo son el pueblo de Dios que ya fue cambiado y perdonado y exaltado, porque y es una profecía que está por ser cumplida, aún no se ha cumplido, porque esto es en el fin de los tiempos en el que los santos recibieron el reino.
Right. And we're going to go to the last book in the Bible, Revelation 22. Paul, you're going to go first. 22, and we're going to start at 12, and we'll move to 13. In fact, hold it. Revelation 14 and 12 first, right? Let's do Revelation 14, 12. Okay. This is what we're waiting for. What we just read in Daniel, we're waiting for that, right? And this describes that. Repeat what
esto que acabamos de leer en Daniel es lo que estamos esperando en Apocalipsis 14, verso 12.
Right, because these saints, this is who that's talking about in chapter 14, verse 12, Larry.
Porque a estos son los santos de los que se está refiriendo en Daniel. Este es el libro de Apocalipsis, versículo 12. Aquí está la paciencia de los santos, los que guardan los mandamientos de Dios y la fe de Jesús.
Right. And did you notice that it said keeping the commandments of God?
¿Te diste cuenta que dice los que guardan los mandamientos de Dios?
And the faith in Christ.
Y la fe en Cristo.
Right. So Paul, you read it in English.
Revelation chapter 14 and verse 12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
Right. Right. So if you notice in there, what is it saying? Those that keep the commandments. The commandments are the laws, the statutes, right? That's what the commandments are. And not only the commandments, but faith in Yahweh Shah, who the world calls Christ, right? Let me see something here. All right, we're going to go to Revelation 22 now. Why this is important. Right? 22, Paul, you start in verse 12, and we'll work our way down. And this is red letter, so Christ is talking here. Go ahead.
Revelation chapter 22 and verse 12. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be.
Okay, hold right there. Did you notice it said he's going to reward every man according to his works? Christianity and these churches tell you lies, and they say all we need is faith. Christ here is telling us he's going to reward us according to our works, right? Verse 12, Larry.
Apocalipsis 22, versículo 12. He aquí yo vengo pronto, y mi galardón conmigo, para recompensar a cada uno según sea su obra.
Right. Let them know this is red letter.
Esto es en letras rojas, o sea que es lo que Jesús está hablando, que está diciendo que no es solo por fe, sino también por las obras que tú hagas.
Right. Paul, go to verse 13.
Revelation chapter 22 and verse 13. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last.
And 14.
Verse 14. Blessed are they that do his commandments.
Blessed are they that do his commandments. And what?
That they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city.
All praises, right? You're gonna read verse 13, and we're gonna head to that, right? So if we notice, what does it say? Blessed are they that do his commandments. So anyone telling you faith without works is acceptable is a liar, and they're killing you if you follow that, right? Because Christ said it. His brother James has also said that, right? But let's finish over here. Brother, go ahead, verse 13 in Spanish.
Apocalipsis 22, versículo 13.
Red letter.
Yo soy el alfa, en letra roja, este es Cristo hablando. Yo soy el alfa y la omega, el principio y el fin, el primero y el último. Bienaventurados los que lavan sus ropas para tener derecho al árbol de la vida y para entrar por las puertas en la ciudad.
Right. You got 14 also?
Yeah.
Right. So mention that if they notice that Christ keeps saying to keep his commandments. His commandments are the law, statutes, and commandments. We must keep them if we are going to enter into this kingdom. Faith alone is not enough. We have to have faith in Christ and keep the works also of Christ.
Exacto. Tenemos que no solamente usar la fe, sino también la obra de los mandamientos, estatutos y leyes de Dios.
Right. We're going to go to James chapter 2. Right? We're going to go to James chapter 2. Right? Paul, you got it?
Come.
We're going to go to 2 verse 14. Now, I want everybody to understand that James is Christ, Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus. James is his little brother. Right? James is his little brother. So, hold on a second. Right? So chapter 2 of James, and we're going to start at verse 14, and let's see what James has to say, because this is important. What does he say there in verse 14?
James chapter 2 and verse 14. What doeth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he have faith, and have not works, can faith save him?
Right, so he's asking a question. Can faith save you without works? Brother, if you read that in Spanish.
Esto es el libro de Santiago, capítulo 2, verso 14. Hermanos míos, ¿de qué aprovechará si alguno dice que tiene fe y no tiene obras? ¿Podrá la fe salvarle?
Right. So that's a question he's asking.
Esto es una pregunta que está preguntando.
Right. Now if we go to verse 18, Paul, 18.
Verse 18. Yea, a man may say, Thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thou faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works.
So James is telling you that you can't show anything without having these works with your faith. And he's telling you, I will show you my faith by my works. So if you have faith with no works, you have no faith. It's dead. Right, Brother Paul, Larry?
Este es el libro de Santiago, capítulo 2, versículo 18.
18.
Versículo 18. Pero alguno dirá, tú tienes fe y yo tengo obras. Muéstrame tu fe sin tus obras y yo te mostraré mi fe por mis obras. O sea que no puedes tener solo fe, Porque tienes que tener obras acompañados con la fe.
Right. And those works are keeping the commandments.
Y esas obras son honrando la ley, los mandamientos, las leyes y los preceptos.
Right. Paul, we're going to go to verse 20.
Verse 20. But what thou know, O vain man, thou faith without works is dead.
Right. The question, but wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? He's asking the question, don't you know faith without works is dead? That's what he's asking here, right? Go ahead, read that, verse 20.
Santiago, verso 20. ¿Mas quieres saber, hombre vano, que la fe sin obras es muerta?
Let him know, that's the question.
Esa es la pregunta que se está preguntando. La fe sin obra es muerta, o sea que tu fe no vale nada si no tienes obras, porque por medio de las obras se crea la fe.
Right. Now, verse 21, Paul.
Verse 21. Was not Abraham our father justified by works?
Right? When what?
When he had offered Isaac, his son, upon the altar?
Right. So that was a work. He had to have faith that the Most High was going to handle this, and he did what he was told. That was a work. He showed his faith by his work. Brother, 21.
Verso 21. ¿No fue justificado por las obras Abraham nuestro padre cuando ofreció a su hijo Isaac sobre el altar? O sea, Dios justificó a Abraham por su buena obra, porque él tuvo fe de que por medio de su obra él estaba agradándole a Dios.
Right. So the reality is, if you're a Christian who's running around saying that you have faith in God and that you know God, but you have no works, then you're dead. Because the reality is you're going to fall under these curses, and when Christ comes, he will wipe you away. Spanish.
Si eres cristiano y estás yendo a donde quiera que vas diciendo que vas a ser salvo solo por tu fe, no vas a terminar bien, porque tienes que tener obra. Es la obediencia.
Right.
Si no tienes obras, no tienes nada. Y en el día de tu juicio te van a preguntar por tus obras. Y si solamente dices, no, yo solo tengo fe, no tienes nada para enseñar.
Right. I got one more precept that I want to pull out. The brother's going to get it real quick. What is that? Is that John?
1 John 2 and 4.
Bring that 1 John 2 and 4.
John?
1 John. All right. Paul, you're gonna read yours. Right? You read 1 John 2 and 4. All right. 1 John. No, you're gonna read first.
1 John chapter 2 and verse 3. And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments.
Right. So, it's saying, how do we know him?
If we keep his commandments.
Right. So we have the way we know the Most High is by keeping his commandments, right? There's a scripture that I want. I don't remember where it is. It says where Christ is talking, and Christ says that anyone who says they know him but do not keep his commandments is a liar, right? So let's bring that out. 1 John, what is it? 1 John?
Next one.
2. Okay, 1 John chapter 2. 1 John.
1 John.
Right, just hold on to there. You go ahead and read that.
1 John chapter 2 and verse 4. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar.
What is he?
Is a liar.
Right. So any man who claims to know God or Christ and doesn't keep these commandments according to the scriptures is a liar. 90% of these Christians out here are liars. They have no works. They have no faith. They don't keep the commandments. And they say they know God, but they do not. So they're liars. Right? Brother, if you could bring that out.
Primera de Juan, versículo 2, verso 4. El que dice yo le conozco y no guarda sus mandamientos, el tal es mentiroso y la verdad no está en él.
Right. Finish that part out. I want that last sentence.
And the truth is not in him.
Right. So you're a liar and there's no truth in you if you're not following these commandments.
Si
right?
dices que conoces a Dios, conocer a Dios es obedecer a Dios. ¿Y cómo tú obedeces a Dios? Honrándole sus mandamientos. Si tú dices que lo conoces pero no sigues su ley, estás mintiendo y eres un mentiroso ante la cara de Dios.
Right. So, this is your brother Menatizak with another Bible Bite. We hope this was edifying, and we hope that it was motivating to have brothers who may speak in another language, in Spanish, who are able to be educated and motivated by these scriptures. We implore that you study the scriptures. We implore that you pray to the Most High. His name is Yahweh, right? And also his son's name, who everybody calls Jesus Christ, his son's name is not Jesus Christ. It's Yahushai, right? So this is your brother Menatizak from Nation of Kings and Priests, and we're going to wish you a shalom.
Shalom.